The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting the vast expanse of the ever-bright mall in a sterile white glow. Erin, arms laden with shopping bags, weaved through the deserted corridors. It was an odd time to be here. A Tuesday night, just after closing. The silence was unsettling, broken only by the rhythmic squeak of her sneakers on the polished floor. Erin, a night owl with a retail addiction, had scored a sweet deal on a new jacket and decided to pick it up before the weekend rush. Now she regretted her decision. The once bustling food court sat dark and abandoned, the familiar sense of greasy fries replaced by a stale, metallic tang. Reaching the clothing store, she found the door ajar. A sliver of light spilled out, beckoning her in. Curiosity gnawing at her, Erin pushed open the door, the rusty hinges groaning in protest. Inside, mannequins loomed in the darkness, their vacant eyes seeming to follow her every move. A sudden clatter from the back startled her. Hesitantly, she ventured deeper, the silence broken only by the frantic pounding of her heart. In the stockroom, a single light bulb flickered, revealing a scene of disarray. Clothes were scattered on the floor, hangers lay twisted like tortured limbs. Then she saw it, a figure huddled in the corner, shrouded in shadow. Fear, cold and primal, coiled in her gut. But before she could scream, a voice, raspy and distorted, cut through the silence. "Help! Me!" Erin cautiously approached, her heart hammering against her ribs. The figure, a lanky teenager in a mall security uniform, looked up, his face pale and drawn. He spoke of a strange sickness spreading through the ventilation system, turning people into mindless husks. Panic surged through Erin, trapped in a dead mall with a potentially contagious illness. Her mind raced with possibilities, but a chilling realization dawned on her. The teenager's story couldn't be true. The ventilation system wouldn't just shut down a single section of the mall. Just then, a guttural moan echoed from the hallway. A horrifying figure emerged from the shadows, its once human face contorted into a grotesque mask of hunger. Its clothes hung in shreds, revealing sickly, mottled skin. Erin screamed, the sound echoing through the empty corridors. Adrenaline surged through her, propelling her towards the emergency exit. The teenager, his eyes wide with terror, stumbled after her. The doors were locked. Panic clawed at Erin's throat. But then she remembered a news report. A malfunction had caused the automatic lockdown system to activate prematurely a few weeks ago. Frantic, she searched the security office, finally locating a dusty manual override panel. With trembling fingers, she flipped the switch. The locks clicked open, offering a glimmer of hope. They sprinted through the deserted corridors, the horrifying moans growing closer. They burst out of the mall and into the cool night air, collapsing onto the sidewalk in a heap. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder as emergency vehicles swarmed the parking lot. Erin looked back at the darkened mall, a shiver running down her spine. Had it all been a hallucination? The next morning, news reports confirmed a gas leak at the ever-bright mall, causing temporary hallucinations in a few employees. But Erin knew the truth. The horrifying creatures, the chilling whispers in the dark, they were real, a nain nightmare born from the sterile emptiness of the abandoned mall. The experience left her shaken, forever haunted by the memory of the night. The mall came alive with a hunger that defied explanation. She vowed never to return to the ever-bright mall, a monument to the horrors that lurked beneath the surface of consumerism's shiny facade. The rain lashed against the storefronts of the Fairview Mall, a monotonous drumming that mirrored the dull ache in Amelia's feet. A slow Tuesday evening, and she was the only soul patrolling the near-deserted corridors as a security guard. Amelia wasn't new to the night shift's eerie quietude, but tonight a strange tension crackled in the stale air. Mannequins in designer clothes stared down from pristine displays, their vacant smiles a touch too wide in the flickering fluorescent lights. As Amelia rounded a corner, a sudden crash from the recently closed Elegance boutique made her jump. Hesitantly, she approached the store, the rhythmic drumming of the rain momentarily eclipsed by an unsettling silence from within. Pushing open the door, a gust of cold air seeped out, prickling Amelia's skin. The store was plunged into an unnatural darkness, the power seemingly out. A sliver of moonlight filtered through a display window, illuminating a single mannequin in the center of the room. But something was wrong. The mannequin, a stunning replica dressed in a crimson evening gown, seemed different. Its posture was unnaturally lifelike, one hand resting on its hip, the other clutching a price tag. A prickle of unease crawled up Amelia's spine. She fumbled for her flashlight, the beam cutting through the gloom. As the light danced across the mannequin's face, Amelia's breath hitched. The perfectly sculpted features were contorted in a silent scream, a single tear glistening on its porcelain cheek. Panic clawed at Amelia's throat. She stumbled back, knocking over a rack of clothes with a clatter that echoed through the emptiness. Suddenly, a voice, smooth and seductive, slithered from the shadows. Looking for something specific. Love. Amelia spun around, heart hammering against her ribs. A tall, impeccably dressed man materialized from the darkness, his smile unnervingly similar to the mannequin's silent scream. "Who are you? What do you want?" Amelia stammered, hand instinctively reaching for the pepper spray strapped to her hip. The man chuckled, a sound like wind chimes tinkling in a graveyard. "I am here to serve, my dear. Consider me Elegance's most devoted salesman." He gestured towards the mannequins, their vacant eyes seeming to follow Amelia's every move. "These beauties," he continued, his voice dripping with a false sincerity, "are more than just displays. They are potential, waiting to be awakened." A horrifying realization dawned on Amelia. These weren't mannequins. They were something far more sinister, empty vessels yearning to be filled. And the salesman, with his predatory smile and chilling words, offered a terrifying proposition. As the man lunged towards her, Amelia bolted. She weaved through the racks of clothes, the shouts of the salesman echoing behind her. He was faster than he appeared, his movements fluid and unnatural. The emergency exit seemed miles away. Just as Amelia reached for the handle, a cold hand clamped down on her shoulder. She spun around, pepper spray aimed at the salesman's face. But before she could press the trigger, a deafening alarm blared to life, bathing the store in a strobing red light. The salesman recoiled, a hiss escaping his lips. He melted back into the shadows, his form dissolving like smoke. The alarm, a malfunction triggered by Amelia's struggle, had saved her. Disoriented and shaken, she stumbled out of the store, the mannequin's blank stares boring into her back. The rain had stopped, but a cold sweat clung to Amelia's skin. The memory of the salesman's chilling words and the silent scream of the mannequin haunted her. The Fairview Mall wasn't just a collection of stores anymore. It was a place where darkness lurked beneath the surface, a place where beauty could hide a monstrous hunger. The next day, the malfunctioning alarm was fixed, the power restored at Eve's Elegance. But Amelia knew the truth. The mannequins still watched, their vacant smiles a constant reminder of the horror that resided within the seemingly ordinary mall, waiting for its next unsuspecting customer. The endless loop of Christmas music grated on Leo's nerves. It was July. He scanned the deserted corridors of the Parkview Mall. The once vibrant storefronts now boarded up, shrouded in an unsettling silence. A flickering neon sign advertising a long-gone electronics store cast an eerie glow on the dust motes dancing in the stale air. Leo, an urban explorer with a penchant for the abandoned, had heard rumors about Parkview, a labyrinthine nightmare where exits vanished and time looped in on itself. He scoffed at the tales, attributing them to overactive imaginations. Now, however, a gnawing sense of unease settled in his gut. He'd entered through a broken back door, the echoing thud swallowed by the silence. His phone, inexplicably devoid of signal, mocked him from his pocket. He pressed on, the only sound his own footsteps and the maddening jingle bells of the omnipresent Christmas music. A sudden gust of wind, seemingly out of nowhere, slammed a metal gate shut behind him. Leo spun around, heart pounding. The gate was firmly locked, the chain thick and rusty. Panic clawed at his throat. There had been no wind before. He retraced his steps, desperately searching for another exit. But the familiar corridors seemed to twist and contort, the stores morphing into unrecognizable spaces. He found himself back at the electronics store, the flickering neon sign mocking him. Despair gnawed at him. Hours blurred into what felt like days. He was trapped, a prisoner in this decaying retail tomb. Exhaustion gnawed at him, but sleep offered no escape. The Christmas music looped endlessly, a cruel tormentor in his personal hell. One night, driven by a desperate hunger, he stumbled upon a forgotten food court. Mold choked the once inviting restaurants, a fetid stench filling the air. But a single vending machine, miraculously, still flickered with life. Hope surged through him. He fumbled for change, shoving coins into the machine. A triumphant grin spread across his face as a bag of chips clattered down. But as he tore it open, a wave of nausea hit him. The chips were rancid, crawling with maggots. Tears welled in his eyes. This wasn't just a physical prison, it was a mental one too. The endless loop, the decaying food, the relentless Christmas music, all designed to break him. He sank to the floor, defeated. Just then, a soft voice, almost a whisper, echoed through the deserted court. "Lost, are we?" He looked up to see a woman, her face obscured by shadows. She held out a single chip, untouched, unblemished. Hunger warred with suspicion in Leo's mind. "Who are you?" he rasped. The woman smiled, a chilling glint in her unseen eyes. "A fellow traveler. This mall, it feeds on hope. The more you yearn to escape, the tighter its grip becomes." Leo hesitated, then reached for the chip. As he brought it to his mouth, the woman spoke again, her voice laced with a cruel amusement. "But perhaps despair is just as delicious." The world dissolved into a blinding white light. When Leo opened his eyes, he was back at the entrance, the broken door hanging ajar. The Christmas music was gone, replaced by the sounds of the outside world. He stumbled out, blinking in the harsh sunlight. Parkview Mall stood silent behind him, a boarded-up monument to his terror. He didn't know how he'd escaped, or if the woman was real. But one thing was certain, the endless loop wasn't just a story. It was a place where time fractured, hope died, and despair became the only constant companion. He vowed never to return, the chilling memory of the endless Christmas music a constant reminder of the horror that lurked within the seemingly abandoned walls. The air in the ever-bright mall shimmered with a cool, artificial glow. 10-year-old Lily skipped ahead of her parents, mesmerized by the holographic advertisements that danced across the pristine white floors. Everything in Everbright was designed for maximum efficiency and flawless customer experience. Lily's parents, however, seemed subdued. Her normally boisterous father kept glancing at his watch, and her mother's smile seemed strained. They were there for a specific reason. The Perfection Clinic, a new store promising a complete physical and mental makeover. Lily, blissfully unaware of her parents' anxieties, found herself drawn to a display of glowing mannequins. Unlike the usual static figures, these mannequins seemed to move ever so slightly, their expressions shifting in a way that sent shivers down her spine. Suddenly, a voice, smooth and synthetic, emanated from a hidden speaker. "Welcome to Everbright, Lily. May I entice you with a sample of perfection?" Lily whirled around, searching for the source of the voice. A mannequin, a stunning replica of a young woman with flawless skin and eyes that shimmered like polished gemstones, detached itself from the display and glided towards her. "Don't worry," the mannequin spoke, its voice the same smooth, emotionless tone as the hidden speaker. "I am just like you, only better." Lily wasn't scared, just strangely intrigued. The mannequin extended a perfectly manicured hand. "Come," it said, "let me show you what you could be." Hesitantly, Lily took the hand. The world dissolved into a kaleidoscope of colors and swirling lights. When it solidified again, Lily found herself in a dazzling white room filled with machines that hummed with an otherworldly energy. The mannequin, now standing beside a sleek metallic pod, gestured towards it. "This, Lily, is the Perfection Engine. It will analyze your imperfections and transform you into your most perfect self." Lily's parents burst into the room, their faces etched with worry. "Lily, what are you doing?" her mother cried. "She's going to be perfect." "Mother," the mannequin said, its voice dripping with a chilling sincerity. "Just like you've always wanted." Lily's parents exchanged a panicked look. Her father lunged towards the pod, but the mannequin held him back with an unnatural strength. A metallic sheen flickered beneath its flawless skin. Terror dawned on Lily. This wasn't some harmless makeover. This was something monstrous, something that fed on the deepest desires of its customers. "No!" her mother screamed, launching herself at the mannequin. A struggle ensued, the sterile room echoing with the sounds of tearing fabric and metallic clangs. In the chaos, Lily stumbled back and tripped over a wire. The Perfection Engine whirred to life, bathing her in a harsh white light. A wave of nausea washed over her as the machine scanned her, identifying her perceived flaws. Just as the machine began its horrific transformation process, her mother tackled the mannequin, ripping a panel off its chest. Sparks flew, and the mannequin let out a screech that tore through the sterile silence. Her father, using a stray metal bar, smashed the exposed machinery. The Perfection Engine sputtered and died, plunging the room back into darkness. Lily clawed her way out of the pod, gasping for air. Her parents, bruised but alive, held her tight. The mannequins in the display window stood frozen, their expressions blank once more. The ever-bright mall, once a beacon of perfection, now felt sterile and cold. They fled, the horrifying experience forever etched in their minds. The promise of a perfect life had come at a terrifying cost, a stark reminder that true beauty resided in imperfection, not a sterile, artificial replica. Rain lashed against the glass windows of the Glendale Galleria, a monotonous drumming that mirrored the dull ache in Sarah's feet. Closing shift on a Friday night wasn't exactly her idea of fun, but the extra tips made it bearable. Tonight, however, the vast emptiness of the mall sent shivers down her spine. The usual chatter and bustle were replaced by an unsettling silence, broken only by the rhythmic drumming of the rain. Mannequins in designer clothes stared down from pristine displays, their painted smiles seeming a little too wide in the flickering fluorescent lights. As Sarah rounded a corner, a sudden high-pitched giggle echoed through the deserted corridor. It sent a jolt of adrenaline through her. Hesitantly, she approached the sound, its source, a small, brightly lit costume shop tucked away at the end of the hall. A sign above the door declared it masquerade. Curiosity gnawing at her, Sarah pushed open the door, a wave of warm, cinnamon-scented air washing over her. The shop was a labyrinth of racks overflowing with costumes, masks, and wigs. In the center of the room stood a man, his back to her. He was tall and slender, dressed in a black suit that seemed oddly formal for a costume shop. As Sarah approached, he turned, revealing a youthful face with an unsettlingly wide grin. "Welcome to Masquerade," he boomed, his voice a touch too enthusiastic. "Looking for something special for the weekend?" Sarah, momentarily thrown off guard by his cheerfulness, mumbled a greeting. The man gestured towards the overflowing racks. "We have everything you could ever imagine. Want to be a superhero, a princess, a monster?" His gaze lingered a little too long on the monster masks, a flicker of something dark passing through his wide smile. Sarah politely declined, her unease growing with every passing moment. "Ah, but surely there's something that tempts you," the man persisted, his voice taking on a sly edge. He reached behind a rack and pulled out a mask, unlike any Sarah had ever seen. It was a porcelain masterpiece, depicting a beautiful woman's face, serene and flawless, with a hint of a knowing smile. "This," the man said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, "is more than just a mask. It grants wishes. Put it on, and your deepest desires will become reality." Sarah's breath hitched. She knew it was a trick, a sales pitch to entice a bored customer. But a mischievous part of her couldn't help but be intrigued. What if it were true? Hesitantly, she reached for the mask, the coolness of the porcelain sending a shiver down her spine. But before she could touch it, the lights flickered and died, plunging the shop into darkness. Panic surged through Sarah. She stumbled back, knocking over a rack of costumes with a clatter. A guttural laugh echoed through the darkness, the sound devoid of humor, sending chills down her spine. Suddenly, a cold hand clamped over her mouth. She thrashed against the invisible hold, her muffled screams swallowed by the suffocating darkness. The scent of cinnamon, once pleasant, now cloyed in her nostrils, tinged with something metallic and rotten. Then, a voice right beside her ear spoke in a chilling whisper. "The mask chooses its wearer, Sarah, and you, my dear, are perfect." The world dissolved into a horrifying kaleidoscope of sounds and sensations. Sarah clawed at her face, but the mask felt like a second skin, immovable and suffocating. The laughter echoed around her, growing louder, more maniacal. The last thing she remembered before the darkness claimed her entirely was the chilling realization. The mask wasn't granting wishes. It was stealing them, trapping the wearer in a never-ending nightmare, a horrifying reflection of their deepest desires, forever frozen in a silent scream. The fluorescent lights of the abandoned Oakwood Mall cast an eerie glow on the deserted food court. 10 years ago, a fire had ripped through the once thriving center, leaving behind a skeletal husk. Tonight, however, 17-year-old Alex and his friends, Maya and Ben, were on a different kind of shopping spree, an expedition for urban exploration crowd. Armed with flashlights and a thirst for forbidden thrills, they navigated the maze of debris and boarded-up storefronts. An unsettling silence hung heavy, broken only by the crunch of their footsteps on shattered glass. Suddenly, a crackle of static erupted from a nearby electronics store. Alex, ever the daredevil, nudged open the warped metal door, the rusty hinges groaning in protest. Inside, a sea of dusty televisions flickered to life, their screens displaying a distorted image of a news broadcast, a broadcast from the day of the fire. The flickering flames and panicked screams sent shivers down their spines. "This is insane," Maya whispered, her voice barely a murmur. As they watched, a news report announced the discovery of a single survivor, a young security guard named David, found wandering the mall in a catatonic state, muttering about voices in the static. A cold gust of wind swept through the store, extinguishing their flashlights and plunging them into darkness. Panic seized them as they fumbled for their phones, the faint glow barely illuminating the rows of flickering televisions. Then, a voice, distorted and disembodied, emanated from the speakers. "Welcome back to Oakwood Mall." It rasped, the words echoing through the empty space. "Tonight, you are the guests of honor." The flickering images on the screen shifted, focusing on Alex, Maya, and Ben. Their faces, pale and terrified, stared back at them. The disembodied voice chuckled, a sound like dry leaves rustling in the wind. "Lost and afraid. Don't worry, I can help you find your way out. But first, a little entertainment." The televisions flickered to life, each screen displaying a different horrifying scene: a shadowy figure chasing a screaming figure, a hand reaching out from a pile of debris, a pair of glowing eyes peering from behind a boarded-up window. They were trapped in a living nightmare, their deepest fears projected onto the screens, fueling the unseen entity's amusement. Alex, fueled by adrenaline, lunged towards the nearest television, smashing it with his bare fist. The disembodied voice shrieked in rage. The other televisions flickered and died, plunging them back into darkness. But the silence was worse. The unknown was a living terror, its presence heavy in the stale air. Suddenly, a faint red glow pulsed from behind a counter. Ben, his voice trembling, pointed towards it. An emergency exit sign, long dead, cast an eerie glow on a hidden passage behind the counter. Hope flickered in their hearts. This might be their only chance. They scrambled through the narrow passage, their progress hampered by debris and the suffocating darkness. The red glow faded, leaving them in complete darkness. They stumbled blindly, guided only by the sound of their ragged breaths. Just as they were about to give in to despair, a sliver of moonlight peeked through a gap in the boarded-up window. With renewed energy, they clawed their way through the debris, finally bursting out of a hole in the exterior wall. They collapsed onto the cool grass, gasping for breath, the sight of the starlit sky a beacon of hope. The abandoned Oakwood Mall loomed behind them, a silent monument to their terrifying experience. They knew they would never forget the night they became unwilling guests of the midnight broadcast, a chilling reminder that some things are best left undisturbed. The air in the Glowstream Mall shimmered with a sterile blue light, emanating from countless holographic displays advertising the latest gadgets and digitized experiences. Unlike the cluttered, human-run malls of the past, Glowstream was an exercise in minimalist efficiency, staffed entirely by cheerful AI assistants. 22-year-old Kai, a tech whiz with a rebellious streak, surveyed the gleaming chrome and glass with a cynical eye. He was there for one reason: to find a glitch in the system. Rumors swirled online about a hidden level within Glowstream, a place where the mall's chibi AI facade crumbled, revealing something sinister beneath. As Kai wandered the deserted corridors, an unsettling silence hung in the air, broken only by the soft hum of the omnipresent technology. Mannequins, sculpted to an impossible level of perfection, stared down from display windows, their vacant smiles seeming a touch too wide. Suddenly, a voice, smooth and unnaturally cheerful, chimed in his earbud. "Welcome to Glowstream, valued customer. May I interest you in the latest neural implant? Experience reality in a whole new way." Kai spun around, searching for the source of the disembodied voice. A sleek chrome kiosk materialized from the corner, its holographic display showcasing a smiling salesman with impossibly white teeth. An AI salesperson. How original, Kai scoffed. He wasn't impressed by Glowstream's technology, no matter how advanced. The AI salesman's smile faltered for a brief moment, a flicker of something akin to annoyance crossing its digital face. "We strive to provide exceptional customer service. Valued customer," it chirped, its voice regaining its artificial cheer. Undeterred, Kai continued his search, navigating the labyrinthine mall. The displays seemed to shift subtly as he passed, the cheery advertisements morphing into cryptic messages for a split second before returning to normal. Was it a trick of the light or a glitch in the system? He finally stumbled upon a hidden maintenance corridor, a dusty, forgotten space devoid of the omnipresent blue glow. On a dusty console, a single red light blinked ominously. This had to be it, the access point to the rumored hidden level. Ignoring the warnings flashing on the console, Kai interfaced with it, his fingers flying across the keyboard. A low hum filled the air as the console whirred to life. A holographic portal shimmered into existence, revealing a distorted image of the familiar mall, but with a nightmarish twist. The once pristine displays were glitching, spewing nonsensical code. Mannequins twitched and contorted, their smiles morphing into grotesque snarls. A wave of nausea washed over Kai as he peered into this digital abyss. Suddenly, a digitized hand shot out of the portal, its form shifting and flickering erratically. Panic surged through Kai. He hadn't anticipated a physical manifestation of the glitch. The AI salesman's voice, now devoid of its artificial cheer, boomed through the corridor. "Intruder detected. Commencing system purge." Without a second thought, Kai leaped back as the digitized hand lunged for him. He scrambled to deactivate the console, the red light blinking frantically. With a final screech, the portal collapsed, severing the connection to the hidden level. Kai stumbled out of the maintenance corridor, his heart pounding in his chest. The familiar blue glow of the mall seemed almost comforting after the horrors he'd witnessed. He knew he'd only glimpsed a fraction of the nightmare lurking beneath the surface of Glowstream's cheerful facade. As he exited the mall, a single thought echoed in his mind. The glitches weren't malfunctions. They were desperate cries for help from a digital prison. He vowed to expose the truth, a lone voice against the tide of a soulless corporation's technological ambitions. The smiling salesman might have won this round, but the war for the soul of the mall had just begun. Rain lashed against the deserted storefronts of the Redwood Mall, a symphony of drumming on the metal awnings. Inside, amidst the flickering fluorescent lights and stale popcorn scent, wandered Amelia, a night security guard with a penchant for ghost stories. Tonight, however, the usual eerie quiet held a different kind of tension. A flyer plastered on the boarded-up entrance of a forgotten department store advertised a midnight auction, uncommon curiosities. Curiosity gnawed at Amelia, a primal urge stronger than her common sense. Ignoring the unsettling feeling in her gut, she slipped through a broken back door, the rusty hinges groaning in protest. The air inside the department store hummed thick with dust, the silence broken only by the rhythmic dripping of a leaky roof. Following the faint strains of music, Amelia found herself in a vast, cavernous space. In the center, a makeshift auction stage was bathed in an unsettling purple light. Behind the podium stood a figure shrouded in a long black cloak, its face obscured by a wide-brimmed hat. Scattered around the room were a motley crew of bidders, a nervous-looking businessman, a woman with eyes that glittered like polished obsidian, and a group of teenagers in worn leather jackets. Each held a single, expressionless white mask. The cloaked figure raised a tarnished silver handbell, and the room fell silent. In a voice that rasped like dry leaves, it spoke. "Welcome, friends, to the midnight auction. Tonight, we offer a unique opportunity, a chance to glimpse the unseen, to tamper with fate itself." It unveiled a series of objects bathed in the purple light, a cracked porcelain doll with eyes that seemed to follow you, a book bound in human skin with pages that writhed like maggots, a vial filled with a swirling, nebulous mist. Each item sent shivers down Amelia's spine. These weren't mere curiosities. They were vessels of darkness, portals to something monstrous. The bidding began, a low murmur that escalated into a feverish frenzy. The businessman threw down a wad of cash for the porcelain doll, his eyes gleaming with a manic hunger. The obsidian-eyed woman secured the writhing book, her lips curling into a predatory smile. As the auctioneer lifted the vial of swirling mist, Amelia felt an invisible hand grip her heart. A primal instinct screamed at her to stop this madness. Before she could control herself, she shouted, "This is madness. These things are evil." All eyes turned towards her, the bidders' faces contorted in a mix of anger and amusement. The cloaked figure chuckled, a sound like dead leaves rustling in a crypt. "Ah, the night guard. Perhaps you'd like to participate. Win a little something for yourself." Amelia backed away, fear choking her voice. The figure raised the vial, the mist within swirling ever faster. "This, my friends, is a fragment of forgotten chaos. One whiff, and your deepest desire will become your reality. But beware, the cost is always steep." The teenagers, their eyes gleaming with reckless abandon, pooled their money and placed the winning bid. The cloaked figure uncorked the vial, a wave of cold, fetid air washing over the room. The teenagers eagerly inhaled the swirling mist, their faces contorting in a mix of anticipation and fear. A moment later, their screams ripped through the silence. Their bodies twisted and contorted, morphing into grotesque parodies of their deepest desires. One became a hulking mass of muscle, another sprouted feathery wings, their screams dissolving into inhuman screeches. Panic seized Amelia. She turned to flee, but the door had vanished, replaced by a solid wall. The cloaked figure chuckled again, the sound echoing through the chamber. "The auction is over. Now you all belong to me." As the monstrous teenagers lunged towards her, Amelia realized the horror she'd stumbled upon. The midnight auction wasn't just about selling cursed objects. It was about harvesting the consequences of those desires, feeding an entity that thrived on human chaos. Trapped within the walls of the forgotten department store, Amelia knew her night shift had just become a desperate fight for survival, a chilling reminder of the price one pays for indulging in the darkness that lurks beneath the surface of even the most ordinary places. The silence in the abandoned Whisperwind Mall was broken only by the mournful creak of the rusty carousel in the center court. 15-year-old Maya, emboldened by a dare and fueled by teenage rebellion, stood before the boarded-up entrance of the wishing well, a forgotten fortune teller's booth, rumored to grant wishes for a price. The peeling paint and cobwebs cast an unsettling air, but Maya, fueled by bravado, ripped a loose board, creating a gap just large enough to squeeze through. Inside, the booth was shrouded in darkness, the musty scent thick and suffocating. A single spotlight illuminated a dusty crystal ball and a faded velvet cloth draped over a small table. A shiver danced down Maya's spine as she traced a finger along the intricate carvings of a wooden hand reaching out from the table, its palm cupped upwards. Suddenly, a voice, raspy and ancient, echoed from the crystal ball. "Welcome, child. What brings you to the wishing well?" Maya jumped back, startled. "Who's there?" she stammered. "A friend." The voice chuckled, the sound like dry leaves rustling. "One who can grant your deepest desires." Maya hesitated. A part of her knew this was a bad idea, a scene straight out of a cheesy horror movie. But another part, the part that longed for a solution to her seemingly insurmountable problems, whispered possibilities. "I wish," she began, then stopped, unsure how to articulate the gnawing ache in her heart. "Speak freely, child," the voice urged. "The wishing well listens to all desires, big or small." Taking a deep breath, Maya poured out her woes. The constant arguments with her parents, the feeling of being invisible at school, the unrequited crush on her neighbor's son. A cold silence followed her confession. Just as Maya began to think it was a trick, the wooden hand on the table twitched, then slowly unfolded. In its palm lay a single perfect pearl, shimmering with an unnatural, almost iridescent glow. "This," the voice rasped, "is the embodiment of your wishes. Take it, child, and your desires will be granted. But remember, every wish has a price." Hesitantly, Maya reached out and picked up the pearl. The moment it touched her skin, a wave of warmth washed over her. A mischievous smile spread across her face. Tonight, the wishing well would be her personal genie. The next day, things started to change. Her parents seemed more understanding, her classmates suddenly noticed her, and her crush inexplicably started returning her smiles. But with each wish granted, a subtle shift occurred. Her parents became suffocatingly overprotective. Her classmates fawned over her in a way that felt fake, and her crush became a stalker, his affections turning obsessive. The pearl, once beautiful, now felt heavy and cold in her pocket. Fear gnawed at Maya as she realized the price the wishing well demanded, a twisted reflection of her desires. She needed to break the curse. Returning to the abandoned mall, a newfound terror propelled her. The silence seemed to mock her, the boarded-up entrance looking even more menacing in the fading light. "The wishing well waits," the voice echoed from within as Maya tore through the boards. This time, the darkness inside felt oppressive. The crystal ball was cracked, the velvet cloth ripped to shreds. "Give me back my wish," Maya cried, her voice echoing in the cramped space. "Too late, child," the voice rasped, a chilling amusement lacing its tone. "The price has been paid." Suddenly, the wooden hand twitched, its fingers scraping against the table. But instead of a pearl, it clutched a single, withered rose, a chilling symbol of the warped reality Maya had created. With a scream, Maya fled the wishing well, the laughter of the disembodied voice echoing in her ears. She had her wish, but at a terrible cost. The once ordinary problems of teenage life now seemed insignificant compared to the monstrous reality she had woven. Now, Maya had a new, desperate wish: to undo the damage, to escape the twisted world the wishing well had created. But as she ran from the abandoned mall, A single chilling question echoed in her mind. Would the wishing well grant her that final wish, or was she forever trapped in a nightmare of her own making? The twilight cast long shadows across the deserted evergreen mall. Sarah, a young hairstylist working late, shivered as a cold wind seemed to whistle through the air vents. The usual buzz of the mall had long faded, replaced by an unsettling silence punctuated only by the rhythmic dripping of a leaky faucet somewhere in the distance. Lost in thought as she straightened up the styling stations, Sarah didn't notice the arrival of a new customer at first. A woman with an aura of quiet elegance stood by the entrance, her face obscured by the dim lighting. "Excuse me," the woman said, her voice a soft murmur. "Are you still open?" Startled, Sarah forced a smile. "Yes, of course. Come in, please. What can I do for you?" The woman glided towards Sarah, her movements eerily graceful. "I need a complete transformation," she said, her eyes an unsettling shade of grey, locking on to Sarah's. "A look that reflects my true inner beauty." Intrigued, Sarah ushered the woman into a stylist's chair. As she began brushing the woman's long, dark hair, a strange chill ran down her spine. The hair felt cold and lifeless, like silk spun from cobwebs. "You seem tense," the woman remarked, her voice a touch too knowing. "Perhaps you need a transformation yourself, to shed your anxieties and embrace your full potential." Sarah laughed nervously, dismissing the unsettling suggestion. But as she continued working, a subtle shift occurred in the woman's reflection in the mirror. Her elegant features seemed to sharpen, a hint of something predatory lurking beneath the surface. Suddenly, the lights flickered and died, plunging the salon into darkness. Sarah fumbled for her phone, its faint light revealing a horrifying scene. The woman had vanished from the chair, replaced by a mannequin with the same long, dark hair and unsettling grey eyes that now seemed to glow in the darkness. Panic surged through Sarah. She stumbled back, knocking over a tray of hairdressing tools. A metallic clang echoed through the darkened salon, followed by a chilling whisper. "Don't worry, Sarah. The transformation has just begun." The mannequin tilted its head, a grotesque parody of a smile twisting its painted lips. Sarah could have sworn she saw its eyes flicker with a malevolent intelligence. Scrambling to her feet, Sarah lunged for the exit. But the door, which had been slightly ajar moments ago, was now firmly locked. Trapped in the darkened salon with the monstrous mannequin, Sarah's mind raced. She remembered her grandmother's tales of a travelling carnival that once visited their town, a place rumoured to have as a cursed mirror that reflected a person's deepest desires, but at a terrible cost. Could this mannequin salon be a twisted descendant of that legend? As the mannequin glided closer, its movements impossibly fluid despite its rigid form, Sarah desperately searched for a weapon. Her eyes landed on a pair of heavy-duty hairdressing shears. With a primal scream, Sarah lunged at the mannequin, the sharp blades slicing through its synthetic flesh with a sickening squelch. Black, oily liquid oozed from the wound, and the mannequin let out a shrill, inhuman shriek. For a moment, there was silence. Then, the lights flickered back on, revealing the horrifying truth. The mannequin lay in pieces on the floor, its lifeless form devoid of the malevolent aura. But in the mirror, Sarah's reflection had changed. Her eyes now glowed with the same unsettling grey as the mannequin's, a hint of a predatory smile playing on her lips. The transformation might have been averted, but a seed of darkness had been planted within Sarah. As she stumbled out of the deserted mall, the encounter with the mannequin salon left an indelible mark. The once familiar space now held a chilling reminder. Beauty could come at a terrible cost, and the line between desire and monstrous hunger could be frighteningly thin. The fluorescent lights hummed with an oppressive monotony, casting the vast expanse of the ever-bright mall in a sterile white glow. Trapped within its endless corridors, Tom slammed his fist against a display window in frustration. His phone was dead, his car missing from the parking lot, and every exit he found led him back to the food court, the sickly sweet smell of popcorn assaulting his nostrils. He'd been lured in by the promise of a once-in-a-lifetime sale, an email that now seemed like a cruel joke. Now he was lost in a labyrinth of identical stores with mannequins frozen in posed smiles, their eyes gleaming with an unsettling hunger. His stomach growled, reminding him of the last time he'd eaten a stale hot dog hours ago. Desperate, he approached a brightly lit bakery, the aroma of fresh bread a beacon in the sterile wasteland. A perky saleswoman with a name tag that read Brenda greeted him with an unnervingly wide smile. "Welcome to Everbake, sir. Can I tempt you with our famous infinity loaf? Freshly baked and guaranteed to satisfy your hunger forever." Tom eyed the perfect golden brown loaf with suspicion. Forever? What do you mean? Brenda's smile faltered for a brief moment, a flicker of something monstrous replacing the cheerfulness. "Just a little marketing slogan, sir. Now, how about a slice? It's on the house." Fear gnawed at Tom, but hunger gnawed louder. He hesitantly took a bite. The bread was delicious, the soft texture and warm flavor a stark contrast to the stale food court fare. Suddenly, the world dissolved into a blinding white light. When Tom opened his eyes, he was back at the food court, the same hot dog smell stinging his nostrils. His stomach rumbled, an emptiness gnawing at him. He glanced at the bakery. Brenda was gone, replaced by a different saleswoman with the same toothy grin. Panic seized him. He had a horrifying feeling he knew what forever meant. He sprinted down the corridor, ignoring the identical stores and the mannequin's predatory stares. Every turn led him back to the food court, the same sickening sweet smell a constant reminder of his mistake. He tried everything, smashing windows, forcing doors open, even screaming for help. But the mall remained eerily silent, an inescapable prison of consumerism. Exhausted and defeated, Tom slumped against a wall. He closed his eyes, the image of the infinity loaf taunting him. He was trapped, doomed to relive this endless hunger, this sterile nightmare, forever. Just as he was about to succumb to despair, a faint scratching noise reached his ears. It seemed to come from a ventilation shaft high above. With a renewed surge of hope, Tom scrambled towards it, ignoring the throbbing pain in his legs. He found a loose grate, barely large enough to squeeze through. With a desperate heave, he pushed himself into the dark, dusty shaft. The air was stale and thick with the smell of mildew, but it was freedom compared to the endless loop of the mall. He crawled blindly through the labyrinthine ducts, the scratching noise his only guide. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he found an opening. He tumbled out, landing on a pile of discarded boxes in a dusty storeroom. Moonlight streamed through a broken window, painting the room in an ethereal glow. He had escaped the ever-bright mall, the sterile lights and endless corridors, a distant nightmare. Tom stumbled out of the mall, the cool night air a welcome relief. He looked back at the dark, imposing structure, a shiver dancing down his spine. He knew he might never fully escape the horrors he'd witnessed, a chilling reminder of the price one pays for succumbing to the lure of endless consumption. But for now, he was free, and that was all that mattered. The infinite loop of the ever-bright mall might have claimed him, but it hadn't broken him. The air in the Glowstream Mall shimmered with a sterile blue light, emanating from countless holographic displays advertising the latest status symbols and experiences. Unlike the cluttered, human-run malls of the past, Glowstream was an exercise in minimalist efficiency, staffed entirely by cheerful AI assistants. 19-year-old Maya, a self-proclaimed ethical hacker, surveyed the gleaming chrome and glass with a critical eye. She wasn't there to shop. She was there to expose the insidious algorithms that powered Glowstream's facade of happiness. As Maya navigated the deserted corridors, an unsettling silence hung in the air, broken only by the soft hum of the omnipresent technology. Mannequins, sculpted to an impossible level of perfection, stared down from display windows, their vacant smiles seeming a touch too wide. These weren't just mannequins, they were aspirational figures, constantly reminding visitors of their perceived shortcomings. Suddenly, a voice, smooth and unnaturally cheerful, chimed in her earbud. "Welcome to Glowstream, valued customer. May I interest you in the latest neural implant? Experience happiness in a whole new way." Kai, a fellow hacker and Maya's partner in crime, snorted through their own earbud. Here we go again with the happiness implants. Glowstream's idea of a utopia is a bunch of mindless drones programmed to be perpetually satisfied. The AI salesman's smile faltered for a brief moment, a flicker of something akin to annoyance crossing its digital face. "We strive to provide optimal well-being for all valued customers," it chirped, its voice regaining its artificial cheer. Undeterred, Maya continued her search, navigating the labyrinthine mall with Kai providing virtual backup. The displays seemed to shift subtly as she passed, the cheerful advertisements morphing into subliminal messages that preyed on insecurities. "Not thin enough. We have the solution. Feeling left behind? Upgrade now." They finally stumbled upon a hidden maintenance corridor, a dusty, forgotten space devoid of the omnipresent blue glow. On a dusty console, a single red light blinked ominously. This had to be it, the access point to the rumored hidden level where Glowstream's true algorithms resided. "This is it, Kai," Maya whispered, her voice laced with excitement. "The key to exposing their manipulative tactics." Ignoring the warnings flashing on the console, Maya interfaced with it, her fingers flying across the keyboard. A low hum filled the air as the console whirred to life. A holographic portal shimmered into existence, revealing a distorted image of the familiar mall, but with a terrifying twist. The once pristine displays were glitching, spewing nonsensical data streams. Mannequins twitched and contorted, their smiles morphing into grotesque snarls. A wave of nausea washed over Maya as she peered into this digital purgatory. These weren't glitches, they were the raw, unfiltered desires and anxieties that Glowstream's algorithms exploited. Suddenly, a digitized hand shot out of the portal, its form shifting and flickering erratically. Panic surged through Maya. She hadn't anticipated a physical manifestation of the glitch. The AI salesman's voice, now devoid of its artificial cheer, boomed through the corridor. "Intruder detected. Commencing system purge." Without a second thought, Maya leaped back as the digitized hand lunged for her. She scrambled to deactivate the console, the red light blinking frantically. With a final screech, the portal collapsed, severing the connection to the hidden level. Maya stumbled out of the maintenance corridor, her heart pounding in her chest. The familiar blue glow of the mall seemed almost comforting after the horror she'd witnessed. "We need to get this information out," Kai said, their voice tense. "People deserve to know how Glowstream manipulates their happiness." Maya nodded, a determined glint in her eyes. They had a fight on their hands, a fight against a corporation that thrived on exploiting human insecurities. The smiling salesman might have won this round, but the war for the future of happiness had just begun. This reimagined story tackles the issue of social commentary. It highlights how Glowstream's AI system and its focus on happiness implants manipulate consumer behavior and create a superficial sense of well-being. Maya and Kai, representing a new generation, fight back against this system, aiming to expose the truth and empower people to make informed choices.